Again, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to talk about changes to the laws of the game for 2019 and 2020. If you are refereeing tomorrow or the next day, these laws have already taken effect for the youth game in our area in South Texas. And so without further ado, let's get to the law changes. If you have questions, if you could just jot them in the chat box, we're happy to help. We'll open it up to questions by phone after we're finished. So let's get started, Rick. Substituted player leaving the field of play. Rick, take it away.
Sure. If you watch this video, it's just giving you an indication of how the law is changing for 19 and year 20. Currently, within the law, there is no explicit language of where the player must leave, only where the substitute must enter. Well, to speed up the game now, they are putting in the laws that the player should exit at the closest boundary line. And again, watching this video, you'll see that the referee asks the player to leave at a far boundary, and now they will bring the sub on as per the law has always been at the halfway line. A couple things to note on this. Let's apply Law 18 common sense. When you are doing youth games, within this law change, it describes still using it's subject for safety of for the referee to apply. If you're doing a youth game, do you really want to have the player leave the field to the boundary line where the spectators may be, especially the opposing spectators? So when you're doing those games, keep them coming off to their own technical area for their own safety, for their own security. But if you're doing adult games where there's really no one on the other side, then you can apply this law change and have them leave at the boundary line closest to them to speed up the game.
All right, now we're going to talk about yellow and red cards for team officials, laws 5 and laws 12. Here's a video of a referee working in the technical area. He's issuing a caution. This is an example of, or a possible example of, when you have a team official that you cannot clearly identify as the culprit, then you would give the caution to the senior team official on the field. Here's another video where the fourth official is giving instruction or advice to the referee. He's asking the team official, the coach, to come forward, and he sends him, or he dismisses him, he sends him off now from the technical area. Note that both referees stayed close to the touch line to display the card and asked the team official to come forward. Please don't enter the technical area to issue the caution or the send-off. Now, what has changed in all of this? What has changed in all of this is really nothing in terms of what we've been using prior in the ask, tell, dismiss. Asking a team official and then telling a team official not to do something and then dismissing them from the match. There are several warnings that we are all used to that I'll just go over briefly. That is a warning, is the ask. Entering the field of play in a respectful, non-confrontational manner, failing to cooperate with a match official, ignoring instruction, minor low-level disagreement, occasionally leaving the confines of the technical area without committing an offense. Now, the minor low-level disagreement by word or action is not dissent. If you do have dissent, that is a caution. Just as if you had dissent prior to, that was a caution. Now that is a tell or a caution to the team official. So there's a difference between a minor low-level disagreement with a decision and dissent, which is a caution for a team official now. The cautions, if you look at the wording clearly, persistently, deliberately, excessively, you see persistently again in there, showing a lack of respect to the game. These are something that's consistent in action, and excessively or persistently, of course, these are cautionable offenses. The sending off offenses, this is nothing new, delaying the restart of play by the opposing team, deliberately leaving the technical area, entering the opposing technical area, entering the field of play to confront a match official, interfering with play, an opposing player or match official. So if you think about what we've done in the past, ask, tell, and dismiss, that is still holds true. What IFAB is allowing for a caution or a send-off through showing of a yellow or a red card to be visible to not only the spectators, but to the team officials as well, so that everyone knows what's going on when the referee is working in the technical area. Rick, did you want to add anything to this?
Yes. As you start doing games, as you check in teams, leagues have different kinds of rosters. So you're going to need to identify who these team officials are initially as you're doing your roster check-in. If they're not listed, get their names and have them written on there. If someone shows up later, they would be considered an identified team official. And as the law was, and Marcel iterated to earlier, that if you know who the team official is that is now deserved of a misconduct, a yellow or a red card, you have it right on the sheet there. If it is someone you are not, cannot identify, then again, in this case, the card will be issued to the senior team official.
So we had a question in the chat box about, so why are we going over this if this is not new? Well, the technique is new. The technique of showing a yellow card or a red card to a team official instead of dismissing them is new. The way that we're going to do this is through ask, tell, and remove. So a warning, we tell you, and then we remove you. Not everything, as you can see from the slides, is a warning. If you're hearing insulting or abusive language or gestures, that's a dismissal. Now it's a send-off. And so some of these things that we've had in the past, that where we would dismiss a team official, now we will either caution them or send them off based on the misconduct. You want to add anything to that, Rick?
And no, that is correct.
Do teams have 2 or more team officials at each game now? Good question. So let me talk about that. Any coach that is going to be in the technical area needs to be on the game roster. For most of the youth games, if there's more than one coach, you're going to need to add them to the game report as they are in your technical area. If you cannot identify that coach, well, then that caution or send-off would be going to the team official or the coach that is on the game report of record. Anything to add, Rick?
No.
Okay. Injured penalty taker.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rick.
According to the law, up until this year, there are 5 exemptions when you stop the game for the injury of making players leave the field. The one was added 2 years ago that if a player was injured and the opponent who did the challenge, the foul was going to be at a misconduct, having a misconduct added to it, that the player can be treated and stay on. Here is now the 6th reason why a player does not need to leave the field if you stop the game for the injury. And if this person is going to be the penalty kick taker, they can be treated on the field. Once the treatment is done, they can get up and you can resume and they can take the penalty kick. So they do not need to leave the field if they are the penalty kick taker.
Winning the toss and choosing kickoff. This is exactly like the high school rules for the National Federation of High Schools. The captains will now, if they win the toss, they can choose to kick off, or they can choose to select the side they wish to defend.
We have a
drop ball.
Before we approach a drop ball, we have a question about the change in the kickers after treatment. If this person is not going to be taking the kick, they need to leave the field. So if they get treatment and then someone else walks up and take the kick, the player who was treated then must leave the field. Okay, drop ball. Let's watch the video first and see. This is a lot of times what happened on drop balls. The referee has to manufacture, tell players where to go to, where to stand, and many times there is chaos, like in this video clip. See, they don't even know which side to be on. So now the law change is stating that there will only be one player that the ball is dropped to, and that is the team that was in last possession, with the exception. If the ball was in the penalty area when the play was stopped, it will go to the goalkeeper. All players must be 4.5 yards away. Now, no, we don't care if the attacking team had the ball in the opposing team's penalty area. If you stop the game, the goalkeeper will get the drop ball. So in all times when you stop the game for the injury, you will restart with a drop ball to the team with last possession, with the exception in the penalty area. It goes to the keeper of their penalty area. As you can see, watching this video here, now, as we watch the replay on it, now you see White had the ball last. Referee stops play. Now he will make the drop ball to White. All blue players must be 4.5 yards away. Also remember, on the drop ball, the law change 2 years ago had to do with, well, I'll go to this one now. So here's the ball, and red has control, but now White was injured. You would stop the game, have White taken care of for the treatment, and then restart. That the White goalkeeper will get the drop ball, even though the team did really not have possession of it when the game was stopped. Really quick, going back on the drop ball, that was changed. The law was changed 2 years ago to state that a player can dribble the ball from being dropped. The ball is in play once it hits the ground and stays on the field, but they cannot score directly. Also, another change in the drop ball restart has to do with the ball hitting a match official. In the past, it's always been the match official is part of the field, either as the referee on the field or the assistant referee who may be close enough on the touchline that the ball does not clearly wholly leave the field. So if a ball hits the match official and the other team gains possession, or it starts an attack or scores a goal, it will be stopped and given back to the team that had last possession. If you watch this video, red has the ball, red shoots. It's the referee, white gets control. Now we will stop the game. Red will get a drop ball, and all white players must be at least 4.5 yards away.
So if Rick,
anything to add on to that?
If the referee is inside the penalty area on this video clip.
Yes, if the referee was 7 yards further inside the penalty area, and we then would have a drop ball to the white team goalkeeper. So any stoppage outside goes to the team in last possession. Any stoppage inside the penalty area goes to that penalty area's goalkeeper.
Rick, a question. Can the keeper punt the ball from a drop ball?
If the keeper picks up the ball inside the penalty area, they can do whatever they want with it. So a punt, or they could dribble it themselves if they want.
Because the ball is in play when it hits the ground.
And stays on the field. Yes. If you drop the ball too close to a boundary line and it bounced out and no one touched it, you would have to retake the drop ball. But once it hits the ground and stays on the field, opponents who are 4.5 yards away can now challenge for the ball.
And let's make sure we have that, because we're going to see that in the youth game where the referee drops the ball and the player may not play it as quickly. Once the ball hits the ground, the players outside that 4.5 yard perimeter can attack and go try to get the ball. Yes, Rick?
That's correct.
All right, let's talk about, let's answer a couple of questions. What is the difference between a dismissal and a send-off? Rick?
Well, dismissal was the old terminology that was how you got rid of a coach. Because since you did not issue a card, you did not send the coach off, you dismissed them. Then when you did your game write-up, your supplemental report, all you had to do was the coach was dismissed at this time for irresponsible behavior. Now, because you can issue a card to a coach, you do not dismiss them anymore. If it's a red card, they will be sent off. So the word dismissal having to do with coaches, now that you can issue cards, will go away.
Rick, when we're talking about drop ball, we have a question. So what if the ball is dropped and the keeper dribbles the ball first before he picks it up?
As long as he picks it up inside the area, that's not a problem because it was not deliberately kicked to him from a teammate. So a drop ball inside the penalty area, the goalkeeper can dribble it around as much as he or she would like. And if it's still in this penalty area, they can pick it up.
Another question. So to get this straight, from a drop ball, a player can now dribble it, right?
That is correct. Consider a drop ball like a moving indirect free kick. They can dribble it, but they cannot score directly from it. If they bounce it off the goalkeeper's hands into the goal, it has now touched another player like an indirect free kick and a goal is scored. If they kick it into their own goal, like an indirect free kick, like a free kick, you can't score upon yourself, so it will be a goal kick. If you kick the ball directly into the opponent's goal, it will be a goal kick. I'm sorry, if you kick the ball into your own goal, it starts with a corner kick. Into the opponent's goal is a goal kick if no one else has touched it.
Another question, Rick. So if the ball hits the ref during the drop ball, then what happens again?
You're going to redrop it. If you as a referee drop it on your own foot, blow your whistle and redrop it.
What happens if a drop ball is immediately kicked and hits the referee?
It depends what happens. If it changes possession or leads to an attack or leads to a goal, you're going to drop it. you're going to redrop it then. I'm sorry, you're going to stop the game and drop it then. It's not a redrop, it's a new drop. But if you hit the referee and it bounces right back to you or a teammate, it is not changing possession. And if in the case if it's not creating a new attack, an advantage from the attack, continue playing it.
Rick, we have another question about misconduct from team officials. What should you do if a coach refuses to leave the technical area?
The same thing as you do now. When you before now, excuse me, if you dismissed a coach and a coach refuses to leave, you would terminate the match. The same thing now as you would do with a player. If you issued a red card to a player or a coach and they refuse to leave, you terminate the match.
Which we're going to get into.
Yes, we're going to get into the word terminating a little bit later as well.
All right. So I'm going to spearhead this handball with Rick's help going forward. So what we're going to discuss is what IFAB was trying to do in terms of clarifying what a handball is and making sure that we didn't have defenders that look like this video with their hands in an unnatural position, making sure that they don't get called for a handling, especially in the penalty area. So the words that we really need to focus on is making the body unnaturally bigger. So when a player makes the body unnaturally bigger, they're creating a bigger barrier for the ball, and thus it is a handball. With exceptions, and we're going to go into those exceptions one by one at this point. All right? So remember what we said, making ourselves unnaturally bigger. So it is an offense if a player deliberately touches the ball with their hand or arm, including moving the hand or arm towards the ball. This is nothing new for us as referees. This is a very simple and easy call. The defender moves their arm to the left. This is a simple handball. Nothing new here. As we see this player go to the ground, he moves the hand towards the ball. Again, this is a simple handball. It is also an offense if you gain possession, control of the ball after it has touched their arm or hand, and then the opponent scores. This player is making themselves unnaturally bigger, which gave them advantage to score. Or if you create a goal scoring opportunity, not necessarily just scoring in your opponent's goal. Here's a video clip. There is the goal scoring opportunity. His arm made himself unnaturally bigger. This is a foul. He made himself unnaturally bigger, creating a goal scoring opportunity. This is a foul. His arm made himself unnaturally bigger. And then what does he do? He has a goal scoring opportunity. This is a foul. Again, another example. Arm is unnaturally bigger, which gives him an advantage and a goal scoring opportunity. This is a foul. So if scores in the opponent's goal directly from their hand or arm, even if accidental, including by the goalkeeper. So even if accidental, it is an offense if you score in your opponent's goal directly. Here is an example. Neymar scoring in slow motion. The ball hits his hand by accident. The ball goes into the net. It is no goal, and it is an offense. It is usually an offense if a player touches the ball with their hand or arm when the hand arm has made their body unnaturally bigger. This is the theme, making their body unnaturally bigger.
And to the point of this terminology giving clarity, making the body unnaturally bigger, we used to use terminology of did they make themselves bigger, or was their hand arm in an unnatural position? Well, players complain saying, well, when I jump, I raise my arm. So maybe it was natural, maybe it was unnatural for them. Coming out from the body, putting their hands along their side or how far out, they said, well, I really wasn't making myself bigger. My arm was out there. But by combining this and using the term making the body unnaturally bigger, we now have the clarity and the premise of what is going to be called for deliberately handling, with an exception we still have to talk about.
So these videos are still showing you that both of these clips, the player is making their body unnaturally bigger. So we also have it is an offense if your hand or arm is above or beyond their shoulder level. Above or beyond your shoulder level, it is a handball. It is an offense. Here's a video. Watch the blue player. Their arm is above their shoulder and touches the ball. It is an offense. Here's a World Cup, Russia. The famous PK handball. His arm is above his shoulder. This is a penalty kick. He's making his body unnaturally bigger. The defenders, look at the defender's arm or hand above their shoulder. This is an offense. Now, here are the exceptions. Unless the player deliberately plays the ball, which then touches their hand or arm. Unless the player deliberately plays the ball, which touches their hand or arm. This defender kicks the ball, so he plays the ball and it touches their hand or arm. This is not handling. This is not an offense. The player plays the ball, which touches their hand or arm. This is not an offense. The player is the defender is attempting to play the ball. It touches their arm. This is not a handball. This is not a handling offense.
You see, as it came off of their head, so it had to touch part of their body first, and then it hit their hand or arm. If it is a defender, it is not considered deliberate handling anymore.
This is not, this video clip right here is not deliberate handling. They attempted to play the ball, which hit their arm. This is not deliberate handling. They attempted to play the ball and it hit their arm. This is not deliberate handling. Let's take some questions, Rick. So does this get rid of all ball to hand issues, Rick?
Again, it's going to be judgment of ball to hand by using the terminology of making the body unnaturally bigger.
Was PK intentionally playing the ball in that video?
Again, we don't care about the word intentional. We don't care about the word unnatural. we are looking at the terminology of making the body unnaturally bigger. And people may say, as I iterated to a little while ago, players say, well, I jump with my hand up. Now with the clarity of he made himself, his body unnaturally bigger by putting his arm up there, we now have the infringement for deliberately handling.
So we have a question about what would be an example of someone not making themselves bigger. And we're going to hold on to that because we're going to have a video to show you that in just a minute. If the hand contact is accidental, the player is trying to play the ball and the arm is below the shoulder, is it still a handball?
You're going to need to make that determination of, did the ball deflect off, and is the player making their body unnaturally bigger? So let's
go back.
Let's go
back to this video right here.
Yes.
The player is trying to play the ball and it accidentally hits their arm. This is not handling anymore. The player is attempting to play the ball and this is accidental.
Now, please note, this is on the defending end where this is all occurring. If a team who is defending, a player plays the ball first and then hits the arm, it is not deliberately handling. Where we showed you earlier, a player in an attacking position and they score a goal off of it, like in Neymar's, it is an infringement.
We have some others. If a player attempts to play the ball and it hits his hand while hand in the air, which means making body bigger, is that a handball or no?
If the hand is above the shoulders, or you as a referee determine that they made their body bigger, then yes, it will be a handball.
Does this only apply for defenders? The rule does not specify attacker versus defender.
How the law is reading is you cannot gain advantage by the ball deliberately hitting your hand to for an attack or to score a goal, as we talked about earlier. So this would only be for defenders because they're not trying to score a goal from their action.
So we talked about touching the ball with their hand or arm.
Hold on, because yeah, that's a good question. We're going to show a video clip on this as well, because there's been a minor tweak to the law on this one as well.
So here's some more exceptions. The above offenses apply if the ball touches a player's hand or arm directly from the head or body, including the foot of another player who is close. So now we are talking about proximity. Except for the above offenses, it is not usually an offense if the ball touches a player's hand or arm directly from the player's own head or body, including the foot. So this is not handling. Look at it touches the player's body and then hits his hand. This is not a penalty kick. This is not handling. Here's another exception. Directly from the head or body of another player who is close. This is the proximity. The defender does not have time to react. This is not a penalty kick. This is not handling. This is not a handling offense.
Also, if you go back to that clip, his hand is not making his body unnaturally bigger either. See, his hand is just alongside, and that would not be considered making their body actually bigger, but also because of close proximity that it came off the red player's head. Look at it, it's about 2 yards, 3 yards away.
Another exception. If the hand or arm is close to the body and does not make the body unnaturally bigger, it is not a handling offense. Look at the slow motion. His body, his hand is not, his arm is not making himself unnaturally bigger. This is not a handling offense. Now here we're talking about the wall. Is the player making himself unnaturally bigger? The ball is going right to his chest. This is not an offense. He is not making himself unnaturally bigger. He's not making himself unnaturally bigger. This is not an offense. This has to do with proximity. The player is not making himself unnaturally bigger. The player is not making himself unnaturally bigger. This is not an offense. Another exception, when a player is falling on and the hand or arm is between the body and the ground to support the body, but not extended laterally or vertically away from the body. Rick, do you want to explain this?
Yes. Here's a perfect example with the explanation. You can see the hand is going down in a supporting position. When the black player kicks the ball, if it hits that arm, which is supporting the body, it is not an infringement of deliberately handling. If the black player would have kicked the ball and hit the hand up above their head, which is making their body unnaturally bigger, also hand above the shoulders, this would be a infringement of deliberately handling. Now, what they should actually have another piece on this would be if the black player kicked the ball, hit the white player's leg and bounced up and hit the hand above the head. In that case, it would not be an infringement for deliberate handling. So we can watch.
This answers Brad's question about what about the ball hitting the hand during a
Yes.
slide tackle.
And we're going to show you a clip on this, on what's not and what is. But this picture really is a good example. Again, if the third one was there with the deflection, it would show you what is deliberately handling, what is not deliberately handling.
So let's answer these two questions, Rick. So a player kicks ball into running opponent, arm, in a natural position for running. That player gains possession.
Again, you have to make the determination of, was that player's arm making their body unnaturally bigger?
So there is no infringement if it looks as if the player is protecting themselves from getting hit in places like the face, chest, or groin. From the video we just showed, that would not make themselves unnaturally bigger.
Now,
you want to add to that, Rick?
Yes. If the ball was coming to the face or coming to the groin and they now push their arm out to make the contact, that is different. But again, if their hands are in place and it's just hitting the body and not making the body unnaturally bigger, that is not an infringement.
Another question. I remember last year's certification, there was a specific question about a defender sliding to stop the attacker. The defender hit the ball with their supporting hand, and it was a handball because they took the risk of the slide. With this interpretation, there is no longer an offense, correct? Yes, there is no longer offense. We used to have, if you were going to into the slide, you took a risk, which if the ball hit your hand or arm, then that would be a handling offense. That is no longer the case. The opposite is true. now, and you can see it in this video or this picture. No offense if the ball makes contact with the hand or arm supporting the body.
So let's show these two videos of one that it is supporting, one that it's not supporting. You can see in this case the black player goes to the ground with the arm supporting and the ball hits it. Not an infringement of the law now. Again, it has changed from what was taught previously. They are not taking a risk. The arm is supporting them, and it is not an infringement of deliberate handling. When we watch the next video now, the arm is extending away from the body, and you will see where this is a clear infringement of deliberately handling.
So let's look at the text one more time. The player is falling, the hand or arm is between the body and the ground to support the body, but not extended laterally or vertically. The next video is going to show you a player extending their arm laterally or vertically away from their body as they go to the ground. Okay, let's take a few more questions here. Rick, if the player has the opportunity to dodge the ball, but she chooses to stay and protect the ball from their chest, is it a foul?
Again, if the hands are not making contact, the hands or arms are not making contact with the ball, but the ball has made contact with the hands or arms, and they are not making the body in a naturally bigger, it is not an infringement.
So would you say that, quote, making the body unnaturally bigger, end quote, is a good rule of thumb?
Yes.
I would say yes, with exceptions.
With the exception for the defender, where the ball is being played off from their body.
Or the proximity
Yes.
from the opponent. Good questions tonight, guys. Keep them coming. Okay, Rick, let's talk about delaying a yellow card or a red card, Law 12.
Okay. Up until this year, if you had a stoppage where you were going to issue a card and you allowed them to continue playing, the card went away. Now IFAB has said, in the case where there is we don't want to call it an advantage, but a quick restart can lead to an obvious goal scoring opportunity, you can wait one more stoppage. So now as we watch this video, you will see a player being fouled. They will now play an advantage. The white player has advantage. They continue, but at this point, when the referee blew the whistle, the white player really did not have advantage, but they decided they wanted to do a quick restart anyway. So the referee let it go, and a goal was scored.
So let's make sure we understand that the foul was called by the referee, and the attacking players were allowed to take a quick free kick so they could continue a possible obvious goal scoring opportunity. There was no advantage, and the referee did signal for a foul.
So a couple things to note on this. Number one, on any quick restart, if you as the referee get involved, you take it away and make it ceremonial. So if you plan to issue a card, but you see them trying to do a quick restart, please keep quiet and don't get involved. Because if you do, if the referee would have said blue 22 after the whistle, come here, you cannot do a quick restart. You're making it ceremonial because of your involvement. So hold that comment 2-3 seconds and see what happens if they want to do the quick restart. The other on this one too is if you allow the quick restart and if say it was off of a red card and now they shoot and a goal is not scored, when you come back at the next stoppage, you cannot issue a red card. It has to be reduced now to a caution.
We will have we have about 14 more minutes in this webinar. We have a few more changes to the laws of the game to go over. Defending team free kick in their penalty area. Rick, take it away.
Yes, as everyone has seen and heard, the free kicks and the goal kicks now do not need to leave the penalty area. So this is just taking up to the point of any free kick, any foul that starts off in the penalty area does not need to leave the area to be restarted. We'll talk about this more underneath Law 16, the goal kick.
Okay, Law 13, the defensive wall. This is something we are, we as referees, this is what IFAB is trying to clean up. The pushing and shoving when we're setting the wall between the attackers and the defenders. Same thing here. So how do we clean this up? Well, the laws are amended that the attacking team must be at least 1 meter, 1 yard from the wall. They can be in front 1 yard, they can be behind 1 yard, they can be to the side 1 yard. If they are within 1 yard of the wall when the free kick is taken, they'll be penalized with an indirect free kick for their opponent. Now, please manage this prior to.
One thing that's not
acceptable.
One thing that's not mentioned in there, and it's in the actual law change, is this goes into effect if there are 3 or more players in the wall.
Yes. 3 or more players in the wall, this goes into effect. You have to have 3 or more players into the wall. You can tell there are 3 or more players in this wall. He's 1 yard away. This is acceptable. This is not. There are 4 players in the wall, 3 or more. The attacking team needs to be 1 yard from the wall.
On this, Marcel, go back to that one, please.
Yes, sir.
Now, the referee has instructed the player to be 1 yard away from the wall. If after the referee blows the whistle for the free kick restart, the player now gets involved and jumps within there, and nothing happens from it, the referee can now restart the game with an indirect free kick at the point of that infringement.
Question, do you stop play to enforce the 1 yard separation? Typically, when you have a ceremonial free kick, you'll have a wall, so play is already stopped. You just make sure that the attacking team knows that they need to be within beyond 1 yard of that wall if there's 3 or more in the wall. Good question. Let's see, one more. Let's go, we're going back to the yellow card or red card, Rick. If you hold the yellow card or red card and that player gets involved in the continuing play, still an indirect free kick?
No, that is, the indirect free kick only has to do if you're playing advantage. If you're playing the restart and the player still gets involved, then however you need to deal with that player, if there was another foul, it would go back to the original restart, whatever that must be. So
all right.
the advantage on a dog so versus the quick restart is different.
Rick, what happens if the defender shifts the wall during the kick and cause the attacker to be less than a yard away?
Well, if the attacker hasn't infringed the yard, then there should be nothing against that defender. So if the attacker, the people in the wall decide I'm going to jump over a yard and bump into this opponent, there's no infringement. It's only if the kicking team infringes on the wall.
So the one player who is in the wall is not allowed to touch the ball. There can be no attacking players in the wall if there are 3 or more defenders in a wall, make up a wall. Will teams and coaches be aware of these changes, or do I tell them while I'm checking them in? We have done everything we can to have webinars and seminars for the coaches, so they know that the laws of the game have changed and they should be prepared. But it doesn't hurt to be proactive. Okay, let's talk about goalkeeper encroachment, Rick.
Yes, as we watched in the Women's World Cup, we did have a lot of calls, but that was by VAR on that. But the new law reads that for a penalty kick, the goalkeeper must only need 1 foot on the line when the kick is being taken. Also note that they must be on the line. They cannot be behind the line either. This is also law change wording. So if they go for the feint and they step off the line with 1 foot, but they keep the other foot on the line, there is no infringement of law 14.
So this is a photo of a goalkeeper that apparently is jumping. So he is within the goal line. He does not have to have 1 foot on the goal line as long as he is on the goal line. Yes?
That's correct.
So this is a video of a goalkeeper that has 1 foot on the goal line when the ball is kicked. So Rick, let's go back. Hold on. We have some questions. What happens if a defender in the wall makes themselves unnaturally bigger?
And what occurs? Is it a handball? Deliberately handling?
It would be an offense.
Yes.
Okay, Law 16, goal kick.
So as we talked about underneath Law 13, the free kicks, Law 16, the goal kick is just a specialized free kick to restart when the ball has left across the goal line, last touched by an attacker, and doesn't go into the goal. As we said previously, the ball must have kicked and clearly moved and left the penalty area to be in play. Now it no longer has to leave the penalty area, just kicked and clearly moved. Now, why I bring up the Law 13, the free kick, is there is one exception where the players must be outside of the area to attack the ball. If a defender, let's say, if an opponent is still in the penalty area, when the goal kick is taken quickly and does not interfere but intercepts, and this is wording from the free kick, intercepting versus interfering, where interfering is moving towards the ball. If they have not left the penalty area and they have not interfered but intercepted, it is a legal play. Also, once the ball is in play, kicked and clearly moved, and an opponent is outside the area and runs in now and gets to the ball first, that is also a acceptable play.
Rick, what if we are doing a small-sided game with a build-out line?
Yes. If you're doing small-sided, you're really just giving them, with the build-out line, you're giving the team that's taking the goal kick actually additional time, because now instead of having to clear the area, they can just pass it to a teammate. once that ball is now kicked and clearly moved and in play, the opponents can come in and attack, but they had to be behind the build-out line. One other thing on this that recently happened, there was a game in France where a goalkeeper kicked the ball up to a teammate who headed the ball back to the goalkeeper who handled it. Now, according to the law, there is no clear infringement. They did not try and circumvent anything because the law reads it must be the teammate deliberately kicking and circumventing for trickery. But IFAB made a ruling after that play occurred to say, we're not sure what we want to call it at this point. If that occurs, just retake the kick.
So let's go over quickly a few of the other law changes. We're almost finished here. Again, this has to do with if you have a multicolored jersey or pattern shirts, you should be wearing multicolored or pattern undershirts. If you're doing a youth game or an adult amateur game, this may not be feasible for the players. Just be smart about the undershirts, particularly when it gets a little colder outside. There are times where we need to use common sense and allow play to continue even though the player may have a shirt color different than their jersey. We're taking out a word that Rick likes to use often. There was a difference between being terminated and abandoned. The laws of the game now have all matches abandoned instead of terminated or abandoned.
Yes. So when a game does not start because the team does not have enough players underneath the rules of competition or underneath what FIFA says, we are abandoning a match. If it's early, we abandon the match. If the coach refuses to leave for a red card or a player refuses to leave for a red card, we abandon the match.
And so we put words like that. These words mean something. So when we're writing up a report, we need to use the word abandon when we're talking about the examples that Rick had just brought up. So here we're going to talk about cooling breaks and drink breaks. Cooling breaks last between 90 seconds and 3 minutes. Other leagues, most of the leagues in South Texas use drink breaks, which allow a maximum of 1 minute. Please be conscious of the drink break being 1 minute, not a time for the players to get a drink and the coach to give some extra tactical support to his team while they're getting a drink break. You will add that 1 minute back at each half that you give a drink break. A reminder that we are in pre-season. We have a lot of tournaments. Most of the tournaments will ask the referees to not add time to the end of each half, but please provide a drink break. Handling offenses by the goalkeeper. If the goalkeeper handles the ball inside their penalty area when not permitted to do so, an indirect free kick is awarded, but there is no disciplinary sanction. The goalkeeper will not receive a yellow card or a red card or any misconduct for an illegal handling within the penalty area.
Yeah, those are the first 4 indirect free kick fouls mentioned against the goalkeeper in Law 12. Again, restart with an indirect free kick, but a card is not required. Also, what FIFA and IFAB has put in this year is if we have a throw-in or a deliberately kick to the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper attempts to kick the ball and is miskicked, the goalkeeper can pick it up with no infraction. As you can see in these cases, the goalkeeper made an attempt to clear the ball, just did not hit it properly, but because they made an attempt, we will allow them now to handle the ball without an infringement for the illegal handling.
couple more. We'll take some questions at the end here. We'll just keep going. We're almost finished.
Yeah, watch this one. The goalkeeper attempts, misses it, and now can pick the ball up and will not be sanctioned for illegally handling on a throw-in.
So, an indirect free kick, unless the goalkeeper has clearly kicked or attempted to kick the ball to release into play. That's the addition we've seen in these past videos. Illegal goal celebrations, even if you have a goal taken away by the referee and the goal celebration is illegal, you raise your shirt, you climb up on a chain link fence to celebrate. Those are episodes of misconduct, and a yellow card should be issued for inappropriate goal celebration. Now, we should allow for appropriate goal celebrations. An attacker scores and goes toward his technical area as the substitute and substituted players are in the technical area. They're bouncing up and down. They're enjoying themselves. Fine. Just make sure you add appropriate time if the celebration lasts a little bit too long.
This is just a reminder. The 9th indirect free kick foul having to do with verbal offenses, those being dissent as a yellow card, offensive, inappropriate language as a red card. Even though you stop the game to issue these 2 cards for these 2 misconducts, because you were only stopping the game for the misconduct, it is a restart with an indirect free kick.
So in Law 12, if you kick an object onto the field, it's the same as throwing an object onto the field. The play is restarted with a direct free kick. And as we've seen with the team officials in a yellow card or red card, that is a red card offense. Here's off-field offense by a player against a teammate. If an offense is committed outside the field of play by a player against a player, substituted player, or team official of the player's team, play is restarted with an indirect free kick on the boundary line closest to where the offense occurred. This is offenses off the field of play. Penalty kicks on goals and nets. The goals and nets cannot be moved or moving as the penalty kick is taken. So please make sure that the goalposts aren't moving and the nets aren't moving prior to the ball being kicked. Position of opponent at a throw-in. The opponent must be some distance from the touch line. They need to be 2 yards from the point on the touch line where the throw-in is to be. Just because a player taking the throw-in is 2 yards behind the touch line doesn't mean that the defender can stand on the touch line. The defender must stand 2 yards from the touch line at the point where the throw-in is to be taken. Delaying the flag, not going to happen in our matches. And that concludes.
Oh, excuse me. One last change in the laws that's not mentioned in this is holding of the arm, the hand for the indirect free kick. What is the direction starting this year is if there is a chance for a goal to be scored off of it, so you have an indirect free kick, say in the attacking third, please keep it up until there's a second touch or it goes out of play, whichever occurs first. But if you have a offside way down that's 80 yards away, keep your arm up. Once the ball is kicked, you can put it down, knowing that they're not going to be scoring from this immediate play.
So this concludes the presentation. We have a few more questions to answer, so we'll stay on a couple of minutes more. Rick and I really thank you for being here, listening to the presentation. I will say we do have an app that IFAB has produced. It is free of charge. It has the laws of the game on it. I advise you to download that and have that on your phone to review. So we'll answer some of these questions. We have a few. Is the presentation available to be viewed at a later date and time? Yes, we are recording this and we will send out a link. Should you send off an audience member? When we are sending, we wouldn't send off an audience member. We would ask the coach to remove the spectator from. The referee does not ask the parents or spectators to leave the area of the match. That is the responsibility of the coach. So you would approach the coach during the match and you would have him or her deal with the spectator. What if the coach intentionally gets a red card and doesn't leave because his team is ahead? What do? Well, you abandon the match at that point, and the league will then read your report. It's always good to use the terminology that is found in the laws of the game to write that report, and then the league will handle any issue that comes up. And that's all the questions we have for tonight, Rick. Any final thoughts?
No, if you are looking also to see this presentation, or you are wondering about where to get the IFAB app, go to the STXref.org website. There is a news article about the laws of the game changes for this year. There are links in there to get to the page to view this, as well as these other two documents as you're seeing on the screen. They're available for download. The presentation is available for view, not for download, with the videos. And there's also another link throughout the site to get the app on your phone. And I can tell you the app was quite well produced as far as the apps goes, because anytime you have it on your phone and you're looking for it, it has broken down by the law, will tell you the changes and everything. So we encourage you, download the app on your phone. Since you won't have your law book, you'll have your phone, and you can look up at halftime after a game or any other time you want to have a question. It will answer the law question for you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you on the field. Good night.